Okay, so Winston White, very football club legend from the mid-80s. Not unfair to say that. Great to talk to you. How are you doing?
I'm great, James. It's great to speak to you, sir.
Are you over in Florida, Naples?
I am. I'm over in Florida. I've been here for 8 years. I left the UK in 2007 and made the transition to the Caribbean. Met a wonderful lady, and I was also working for a US company. So I decided to make the move here to the warmer climate so that my joints could heal.
Well, I can't imagine Will did too much damage to your limbs back in the day, did he? But if you say that they need to heal, then
Yeah, Will, Fourth McGuinness, yeah, affectionately known as the Carpenter. Yeah.
we'll get on to him in a moment. But first things first, I mean, can you tell me about your career, how you came to come to Bury? Because you had a very varied career and you started at Leicester, where you're a very important person in Leicester's history, actually, aren't you?
Yeah, I didn't particularly want to be a footballer. I wanted to play for just fun and leisure. And at 14 years of age, I was spotted by a Leicester City scout, and he monitored my progress. And when I was 15, he approached me, as did Aston Villa, Wolverhampton Wanderers, and a number of big clubs, to if I was interested in signing for them. Well, it was a no-brainer from the point of view of playing for my hometown local team, because I'd watched them a few times. My brother took me to watch a few games and stuff like that. And yeah, when they told me what they liked about me, which I never saw about myself, I jumped at the opportunity. And Jimmy Bloomfield signed me when I was 16 years of age, and I was with him for 5 years. And it was a wonderful time, the first few years. But like a lot of players, when a coach or a manager changes, players' destiny changes a lot of the times, because that player or coach, even like it is today, wants to, change the culture, wants to put his mark on it. And so I became a victim of that, really. And my playing style, which is, as you know, is quite a dynamic style of play, wasn't suited to one of the coaches that came there. And so I decided to leave. And it broke my heart, it really did, because Leicester was and is and always will be my first club. And, I'm delighted that they've had the success that they've had. And you could see that the town was geared to that. But anyway, I had to leave just to get some hours on my playing clock. So I did, and that's when I sort of became a little bit of a journeyman. Mike Bailey, who was a very famous Wolverhampton Wanderers player, was the manager at Hereford United. It was his first role in management. So his assistant was Bobby Gould, and they asked me to come down, have talks. I did. I liked what I heard. They were bringing in young players from big clubs, Aston Villa, Coventry City, who were in the first division at the time. And I liked the group of players, and I liked the sound of the style of play. So I joined them. And again, played quite a lot of games for Hereford in a very short space of time, which is exactly what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to get some miles on the clock. And again, we had 3 managers in, I think, 4 years. In fact, probably 4, actually, thinking about it now, because we had an interim manager as well. So again, I became a victim of the fact that coaches are switched out so quickly. A lot of players will tell you that, especially wingers, especially attacking players. So I decided to try something different. In my personal life, I lost my mum very early in life, and that was a life-changing situation. So I decided to go out to Hong Kong. I was offered the opportunity by a former Bury player, Derek Spence, invited me out to Hong Kong. Yeah, absolutely. And I went out there and played with Derek, a team called Hong Kong Rangers. Thoroughly enjoyed it, totally different. Changed my life in terms of how I look at the world, realizing that the world just is not made up of the Western world. And I think that was one of the most interesting things I've ever done. And I came back, and again, with football, you are fun very quickly, whether you're injured, whether you go abroad, you're forgotten very quickly. Just the nature of the game. So I came back, and I came back after pre-season had started. Now, sure you know, James, when pre-season's a determining way of looking at your players, looking at the squad of players you have, and you work what you got. Usually budgets are normally sorted out that time of the year. So I had to earn my stripes again. So I had a couple of phone calls from a few clubs, but I was very selective about who I was going to go and train with. So I ended up anyway signing non-contract for a few teams: Chesterfield, Port Vale. I'm sure there's a couple of others in there, but they're the ones I remember. And but I didn't want to sign for them. Jim Eiley had contacted me, who was the Bury manager, sometime before that, and I wasn't really sure about moving up to the northwest, to be honest. It was just a long way away from my hometown. And then they told me that they'd sold Paul Hilton to West Ham after I think Bury had taken a thrashing or something. And anyway, Hilton was a centre half, and Craig always makes me laugh because he says they beat us, I don't know, 10-1 on aggregate, and he's playing centre half, and they sign him.
Yeah,
which is quite funny. Anyway, Jim said he's got a bit of money, and if he'd like to come up and have a look at me because he hadn't seen me for a while. And I'd always played well at Bury, actually, for some reason. When I came to Hereford, playing for and played against Bury, I always did well. Seeing one of those like tight little grounds where the crowd was really close to you, you could hear pretty much a lot of every crowd member, it sounded like. And I don't know, there was just a nice feel about it. It was a very old-fashioned ground, And anyway, I went up to Bury. Remember, Wilf picked me up when I got back from the station. And of course, Wilf McGuinness, as everybody knows, I mean, if he can't make you laugh, then nobody can. So Wilf told me about the club, told me that a couple of decent players here and so on. And anyway, I settled in very quickly under Jim Eiley, but we missed out on automatic promotion that season. But I did well. I did really well. So I was on non-contract for a month, I think just over a month. And what was great about it is they put me straight in the first team, which I hadn't done at the other clubs that I've been to, i.e. Chesterfield and Port Vale. I came on a sub, and it's very difficult because I'm a 90-minute player. I'm not an impact player. So anyway, Jim gave me the opportunity. I was fit enough because I'd played a few games as a sub and a few reserve team games prior. So anyway, I came to Bury quite fit. And the fact of the matter is that I impressed. And what was great about it was that thing when you're on a non-contract and the crowd are shouting, sign him up, for long periods of the match. I knew that this is where, if the terms are right, this is where I belonged at this point in my life. And I also knew there was a few other teams watching me as well because I was playing really well. I remember one particular game, I think it was Chesterfield, Boxing Day, those days where you had back-to-back games. You had you had Boxing Day and then you had the following day. Mm. And I played 2 back-to-back games and I was on fire. I really was. And we just missed out on promotion that season. Anyway, they got rid of Jim the end of that season and brought in Martin Dobson.
A totally different style of management, was it?
Yeah, different style of management. Dubbo was player manager, which obviously very interesting. I'd never played with a player manager before. And he was very much a general at the back. But what I found about Dubbo, he never put you under massive pressure in terms of playing on the pitch. Off the pitch, different person, knew what he wanted, was, quite to the point when it came to talking about things. But on the pitch, he was just a player. And you could give him a rollicking, just as you could everybody else. He accepted that. And we became a unit. He got rid of a number of players that season, but he brought in some very good players. And again, he brought in young players from good clubs, from Manchester United. He brought in a couple of players he brought in some good players. anyway, we soared. That 84-85 season, we got promotion, and it was probably the best year that I had in football. Not just football. The football was great. The way we played with a cavalier style, two wingers, myself, Leighton James on the left, and two terrific strikers, both in contrast to each other. Really good midfield, Trevor Ross, and Joey Jacob in midfield. Andy Hill, right back, very, very good right back, Man City, Man United player, former. And it was a good team. Terry Pashley, John Bramall, and then Dobbo sweeping up at the back. Davy Brown in goal. And of course, the legend that is Charlie Madden and Craig Entwistle up front. Really good team, 15 players in the squad. That was it. And of course, you know all about that, James. Your legendary book, The Forgotten 15, has made us fairly local heroes because of that season. That season was amazing because no football was televised that season, if you remember, right?
I've only ever seen moving pictures of the 485 team bonds in a fixture away at Swindon Town. I remember emailing you the video link to it. But I was always fascinated by them, and meeting you all was just a real opportunity to, put flesh on the bones of what kind of people they were. And to a man, they were all absolutely fantastic. Somebody like Kevin Young, who I'd only ever really heard about. My dad would say, he was a classy player. And I didn't know anything more about him. So to get to meet him and to talk to him about what it was like to play for Bury then and what he brought to the team, coming from Burnley, as so many of them did. Dobbo very much had his way, didn't he, with Burnley?
Yeah. Dobbo and Frank were a good unit. They really were. In terms of Frank's role at Bury can never be understated because Frank was very charismatic. I really like Frank because I was a player that I played with a smile on my face. I always tried to. Never got riled. You got those big fullbacks kicking you and, giving you a hard time. And, it was relied upon people like myself and Leighton James and obviously the strikers to create stuff. Frank, as a former striker, was great because, he understood, and I felt I could relate to Frank quite a bit because Frank played with a cavalier style as well when he played. So, he got it. And, the banter was always good with Frank. And that's one of the things that's was fun. I got my mojo back at Bury, which I had at Leicester in my first few years. And that was, I think, one of the key things, the key features, creating cultures. Coaches come in and they need time to create a culture. And the culture was very, very good at Bury. And that's why I hold the club with such great affection, because it punched above its weight because it didn't have the resources, but it had a terrific chairman in Terry Robinson. Again, quite a really good coach in Martin Dobson, his first gig in football as a manager. And he got really good assistant. And he had a nucleus of a decent team there. So I think all the stars aligned at the same time, and I think it was perfect for me to be there at that time. And I was just so proud to be part of that promotion team that went on to become, well, folklore, really.
Yeah, well, I certainly, that's what I wanted to do with it. I wanted this team to be remembered, hence the title, because I don't think they ever really got the recognition they deserved in the club's history. But it was a voyage of discovery to do the book. And as I say, I discovered what a fantastic bunch you all were, and I really enjoyed doing it. And I'm so grateful that you all gave me your time. I've read newspaper articles in the past about the England World Cup team in 1966 not giving interviews. And I think, they won the World Cup. And yet, I could travel to Durham to see Youngie, travel to Italy to see Brownie. And to a man, they were all absolutely brilliant with me. And I'm really, really grateful to all of you.
Yeah. Well, I've found that, and as you know, James, I've been doing a few interviews myself and, reminiscing and with some players that, I played with and or against. And I found that with the players that are playing at a slight, championship or below, particularly back in the day, there's a humility about the majority of those players. And there's an honesty and there's a down-to-earthness that I really liked, because that's kind of who I am. I never felt that I was better than anybody else. And what I found is, speaking to the players that I have done, we're all the same type of people. We want to play the game. We want to be the best we can be, but we're just down to earth people. And that's what I'm attracted to in terms of, getting in touch with those players that I haven't spoken to for quite a long time. And you've helped me on that, James, so thank you for that, because it's been a real cathartic thing for me in terms of, wondering, I wonder what happened to that player. I wonder what happened to this player. Because again, in football, that's one of the sad things, is that once the game's over and we're going back to 84, 85, I left Bury in 86, as you know. It's very difficult to stay in contact, because typically, if you want to make a living in the game, you have to travel, go to another part of the country or whatever, and that's one of the sad parts about it. So football is unique in that respect. I know in any other industry you could stay connected, but in football, there's a tribalism about it, and I don't think that's a particularly good thing, particularly when you are at the end of your career, or you're going into normal life, as it's called. It seems to be like a lot of unfinished business sometimes, and you're left on your own. Not trying to sound sad or anything, because it's way beyond me now, but that's one of the reasons I'm involved in a number of projects now, speaking with former players.
Something that I wanted to touch on, obviously the 1980s were a somewhat less enlightened time, with certain attitudes towards, for instance, race. What were your experiences with racism in the game? Because one thing that I did talk before, you were Leicester's first ever black player, weren't you?
I was, yeah. I was the first black player to play for Leicester City. I didn't know that at the time. Didn't care about it at the time, because I was a kid. I knew I was different. I knew I was special, but not because I was black. It's because I knew that the confidence that I had and acquired through somebody believing in me was, I think, the special thing that I had. And at a young age, I was a very good athlete, not just at football, but I was a very good track and field athlete as well. So I could have chosen a career in track and field, but I didn't. I chose football because I could play everywhere, anywhere, against the back door, my local park. So when I got my apprenticeship at Leicester City, and I was offered the chance to play in the first team in a testimonial, it was kind of the first time that I was made aware of it. And I tell the story, and I'll tell it to you again, James, is that we went in a pre-season game to Millwall, the old Den, which was notorious for just being an uncompromising, aggressive place to go. Jimmy Bloomfield, the manager at Leicester, put me on the last 15 minutes. I could hear all the noise going on around me, in terms of, just pure football tribalism. But anyway, I got onto the pitch, and all I cared about was just getting my first touch right. Get my first touch right, I'll be okay. That's all I was thinking about. Game finished. I think it was 1-1. Came off. Felt good. Had 5 or 6 touches. Good crossing. I thought I did well. Got changed. Got on the coach, and as usual at the Den, you're getting all the stuff thrown at the coach, and very aggressive atmosphere. But again, it didn't bother me, because I looked at the older pros. They were handling it well, and I didn't feel there was a problem. So anyway, coming off the coach, Jimmy Bloomfield says to me, "Winston, I want to see you first thing Monday morning." I'm thinking, oh my gosh, when the manager wants to see you, that means there's an issue. So all weekend I'm nervous. Anyway, I went to see him the Monday morning, and I never forget, I went into his room. He's there in the mirror with his back to me, combing his hair, and said to me, "Winston, when you got on the pitch at Millwall, how did you feel when they were shouting all those things at you?" And I said, "Boss, I never heard a thing. What thing?" He said, "Get out of my office. You're going to be a player, son, with that mentality." And that was it. The point I'm making is that if you allow it to affect you, if you allow somebody who's calling you names to define your path in life, you'll never ever make it in this world. I don't see racism as a problem for me. I see racism as a problem for others. And until we get that message across to there are people that can change this, because it's not down to me to change it. I don't go out there and say, call me names. I just go and I'm doing my job, and people want to call me or who are many others names to this day. Let them figure out, right, where they're going wrong. And I call upon other people who hear that sort of stuff, who are the same color as those people, to say that's unacceptable. So they become the total minority and they stand out as the minority. And then they become marginalized. And then they have to then figure out, well, I need to change my behavior, my attitude. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, James. You know, you and I want, you know, nice car, nice house, you know, nice partner, you know, want a bit of money in the bank. We all want the same sort of things, you know. So it is down to the majority to make sure that the minority do not spoil it and turn this fantastic game into some sort of political football. And I hate that about the fact that we have this situation at the moment that, you know, you have to get down on one knee to make a point. It's 2020, man. There's so many crazy other things that we should be concerned about, you know. And like I said, the authorities, what they're doing now certainly isn't working. And I think the football community, people watching the game and they hear negative stuff, you know, tell the steward, tell somebody, record it, get those people out. Because if I love football and I said something derogatory and I was banned from the game, well, that's a lesson learned, you know. And so we need to be tougher. And every person with any intelligence will tell you that that is the solution. There is no other solution. You don't go to community classes and learn about racism. Really simple. It's a bullying tactic to try to intimidate someone. That's all it is. Anyway, let's go on to lighter things, James.
Let's go on to lighter things. In that you said about not letting it affect you. You know, you've got a very positive outlook on life, and you've now taken that through to your post-playing days with your company that you've got now, W7. What can you tell us about W7?
Yeah, well, you know, I'm at a stage in my life where, you know, I always felt that I wanted to help young athletes, not just football, young athletes. And we're in a difficult time at the moment with the pandemic and everything. But for a number of years, I have looked at a project that I think allows myself and a number of other athletes to give back to the communities. Just going back to what I mentioned before, players travel, they don't stay in touch as often as they should. So what I decided to do, I decided to work with a community interest company. And what that is, I'm sure you know about it, it's like a charity, but with a little bit more flexibility. And they raise money basically for communities. This particular CIC company I'm partnering with. And what we do is we go into businesses and we provide money saving solutions for them. And that money that's saved then is recycled back into the grassroots community. Okay. So with my knowledge of the game and knowing a number of former athletes, I contacted Viv Anderson, who is the CEO of Play On Pro, and Viv understood completely what I wanted to do. And he has a bunch of ambassadors from all different sports: football, cricket, rugby, horse riding, all different sports, top athletes as well. But notably, the players the footballers he's got are people like Emil Heskey, Gary Lineker, Chris Waddle, Brian Robson. The list goes on and on and on, pretty much all former internationals. And he said, "Yep, Winston, love it." And so we formed a partnership. So Win7 Sports is partnered with Play On Pro and with the CIC company. And basically, we are asking businesses to hear what we've got to say in terms of saving money for that business, which is a very strong business model. And then that money is recycled back into the grassroots community. That company is given the profile to say that they are part of the project, the Win7 Sports project. and they get the chance to meet their heroes, you know, because there is a sports ambassador who will come and be involved in that project. And the way about it, James, is they're all little pockets of community. It's not like it's going to be a nationwide project, but you find that players settle in a certain area and they are still heroes. They are still role models. And so, you know, they have a strong voice and a strong backing and very good social media following. So we're going to be using not just footballers, but different athletes. The timing's challenging at the moment, obviously, because of COVID, but we're hoping to get this launched. Well, it's launched now, it's soft launch, but we're hoping to get it really moving once we actually get COVID out of the way, and we can really then get the message across to the community, particularly the business community, because they kind of hold the cards, and we can save them a lot of money because we have an energy broker as part of our group, and they've got the proof of concept is there already, and they've saved, you know, a lot of businesses a lot of money. And so yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. I'm going to be putting stuff out there on my website, win7sports.com. So love people to go and have a look at that, and they can rub shoulders with some top athletes. Again, I'll just give you some of the names again. You've got like people like Gavin Hastings, for example. You've got people like Darren Goff, Monty Panesar. So it's not just football. It's some great athletes who are on the Play On Pro books under the jurisdiction of Viv Anderson. The first black player to play for England. Mm-hmm. And yes, you know, we all are united in the goal to help the community. And the community is desperate now. The sports community is desperate. I was in the UK in February, and I had to leave early. I had to leave because of the COVID thing. I had to leave early. But I went around to these different cities, and it shocked me that you still have pockets of these different cities that people are not they're not investing in some of these areas. You've got the elite athletes, but there's some of these areas where there are some real uncut diamonds, as I like to call them, not just in football, but obviously football is where what I'm attracted to in terms of, you know, you'll go to a Liverpool or Birmingham or a London or a Manchester, and you'll see these young kids kicking a ball around, and they're great talent, and they can't even afford boots. Their clubs are absolutely cash strapped. So we want to help those young players. My belief is that everyone has a talent, and if you can give that kid hope and aspirations, they will become good citizens, because they'll learn about what it's like to be part of a team, what it's like to achieve something. There's different levels of achievement. I'm not talking about going on and playing for England. I'm just talking about being part of something. And that's the values that I take with me as a former player. And that's one of the things that resonates with a lot of the athletes that I've been speaking to, is that they understand it, they get it. And, you know, we're all at a stage now in our lives, you know, whether it be our 50s or 60s, where, you know, we've done it, we've established it, we've come through the other side, we are now part of the community. So we should play a part in helping to build the community back. And that's what I want to do. Even though I'm, you know, thousands of miles away in Florida, you know, I still have an incredible passion towards my mother country. And, you know, I hate to see some of the things that have happened. I mean, Brexit really hurt the country in terms of a division. So, you know, communities had an issue there. So with the pandemic, again, it was like a perfect storm, one thing after another. So sport has always raised the nation. I think we can all agree on that. Mm-hmm. So if you have talented sports people, or people that want to play sports so that they can feel better about themselves, then I think it helps the country heal. And that's what we're looking to do.
I think that's a vision we can all get behind there, Winston.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it, man. Real pleasure.